breaks and some big continental gatherings like the Pan-African Parliament and this week's African Union Assembly. However, economical outlook into the continent paints an optimistic picture of financial standings in Africa, although international media only focuses on reports on the negative and controversial developments. Now, such findings by International Media Monitoring Company have been included in the discussions in the one-week-long AU meeting underway in Sandton. To unpack this report is the Chief Executive Officer of this international company, Media Tenors, Roland. Roland, good morning to you. Appreciate your time. Looking at this, you've published this African Growth Report. Just tell us, give us a little bit of an overview about it.
Well, we are doing this now for the 7th year in a row. We started with Mr. Kofi Annan years ago because he was under the impression that Africa is not really good in selling their success. And if we look into the results, unfortunately, there's no improvement. It's rather going down the drain. If we look at the headlines from last year, it was Ebola, it was murder, other topics. When we look into your news, it's the same story selection. And maybe that's the right timing now to change the narrative. I think Africa is ripe to stand up and explain to the world, yes, we have problems, but other parts of the world have their problems as well. But we have a lot of success stories and they need to be told.
Roland, let's talk about the perception that Africa has internationally. How does international countries see us?
Well, there are two parts. You have companies like the Vietnamese telco Viettel, who obviously are in love with Africa because they are now investing in the 5th country in Africa, and not small money but big money, and changing the market there for the telecom industry. But then you have others who are still hesitant whether they get their money back if they invest in Africa. And that is now the right time where you can change the narrative, and you need to be more active in order to report on what is happening and not let you be pushed in a corner where you don't belong to.
In this book, one of your writings was changing the African narrative. Xenophobia is not part of the Rainbow Nations DNA, which I find fascinating because in most part the media are to blame in many respects, because I don't think we're a xenophobic nation. I don't think we have poor relations with other African countries, yet during those 2 weeks during those xenophobic attacks, we painted the worst picture of ourselves that could ever have been painted. It's that kind of damage that you're saying is setting us back.
Exactly. I was yesterday in a radio show and one of the callers said, well, it's great that there's one positive story, but I can tell you 5 which are not positive. And my response was, don't try to be more German than the Germans are. I'm a German, and we are really good in criticizing ourselves. But we don't forget to speak about those things which are working. And perception is a matter of what you see and what you don't see. And you are absolutely spot on. South Africa is one of the leading nations when it comes to find peace with each other, be open to others. And what happened is a disaster, no doubt about it, and we need to understand why this happened. But if you only show this part of the story, you get pushed into a corner where South Africa shouldn't be.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about this growth report. It is quite a thick book. What does it consist of? What's in there?
Well, on one hand, you see a lot of stories about hidden champions. I brought you one example. Chichi Maponya is one of the icons when it comes to doing business in a successful way and being able to speak about it. You see her on the front page of a magazine, and that is unusual. Your other hidden champions in Africa, they are so focused on doing their business that they sometimes forget to speak about it. And it can't be the purpose of a champion to be hidden. A champion should be well known. And if we think about the history of South Africa, you were the ones who are outstanding in regards to medicine. Hardly anybody knows that the major hospitals in Switzerland are owned by South African companies. Why are you not sharing this? Because it shows expertise. The whole field of X-ray business, that's a driven business by South Africans. Nobody knows about it. And if you don't speak up, if you don't let investors know what you are good at, they don't get attracted And as you know, board meetings are always with 5, 6 people, and there's always one who has read the last headline, and then you say, why should we invest in this country? Let's move on to Asia. And that is your competitive part. You know, if you don't change the narrative, Asia will take over.
But I guess, Roland, it's a catch-22 situation. Media is all about numbers, and unfortunately, bad news sells. And that's just the fact of life. It's not a South African phenomenon. It happens in Europe. It happens in the United States. How do we get past that? How do we get past that mindset that bad news sells, and the only reason why you're going to watch the TV is to see bad news?
Well, I'm fifth-generation journalist, and I don't buy that headline. What is the section which is read the most? It's the local section, and it's the sports section. And we really don't want to read bad news about the club we love. Even if we lose, then it was the referee or it was something. But you know, we want not good news, but we want constructive news. And those media who are changing in this direction, they are the ones who are actually winning audience and making more money. But you are right, it takes two to tango. And if those who are not offering numbers, trends, fascinating data and insights, if they are not willing to stand up and share these with you, then it gets difficult. And that is why I think now is the right time. Nelson Mandela was the person who had it in his genes. You know, he had no money, he came back from Robben Islands and he got the headlines the country needed. But now, 20 years later, we need the little Nelson Mandelas. You know, and my impression is you wait for the next one. He will not come, but there are enough small ones. And if the small ones climb on each other's shoulders, you'll be as big as Nelson was. And that's what you have to do.
Now let's chat a little bit more about changing that narrative and changing that perception. I just want to read from your media release here. It says, Africans themselves need to drive their own positive media agenda and take ownership of the stories about their continent. Is media the key role player here, or can all South Africans and all Africans get involved, and how do they?
Well, you're right. It's all of us. It's we the people. If we the people are not willing to share the stories with us journalists, it's difficult for the journalists to find the right balance of stories. But just take the example of the FIFA 2010 and what is now happening in Zurich and with the FIFA disaster. There were two countries mentioned in the latest research. It was France and it was South Africa being blamed of corruption.
Yes.
What happened in France? They didn't talk about it. Your guys went on and went into defense and said, no, never happened. Well, everybody knows how the FIFA is. And there's no more... Are you saying that was a good thing
or a bad thing for us to do?
No. What you need to do is talk about what you have achieved thanks to 2010. There's an own chapter in this book where you can see how your hotel industry, how all these things got into place.
So talk about the positives.
Our office is in Pretoria. I can go on the train, ping pong, back and forth with Midrand. I can come to you guys. It's easy. It wasn't easy when I started the company in 1999. Things have changed, but you forget talking about these parts. You get pushed into this corner of corruption, and if I were a PR guy, I would say, well, why don't you beat FIFA? Why don't you beat Blatter? They set up the rules. And if you are in the position that you can think about, what can I do in order to please my people, to make them happy, to show them, yes, we can do such an event like that? And if then in Zurich, the rules are done in a way as we all know that they are done, then punish those who did things wrong, but don't let others take away the joy and the pride you deserve because of 2010.
Definitely.
Roland, we're almost out of time. Where can people get a copy of this, or is it online that somewhere people can read it?
You can download a lot on www.mediatenor.com. You can get in contact with our office and ask for a free copy. Easy.
This is fantastic. I mean, Abigail actually hosts a show called Face in the Crowd. It's about someone, young people who are coming up and doing good things as well. This is what we need. And you're right. I mean, the whole FIFA debacle, we haven't focused on the good. I rented my house out during the FIFA World Cup and earned myself some money. It was brilliant. It was amazing.
And talk with the Vietnamese, why are they investing so heavily, and they are a really good alternative to China?
Yeah. Listen, we are out of time. This is fantastic. It's finally some good
positivity.
news. It's what we need. We're chatting to Roland. He's from Media Tenor. It's a report out just on the Africa Growth Report 2015. It also, are we our worst enemies as South Africans and Africans, selling ourselves short both in the media? Do we focus too much on the bad stuff? You can get hold of them, get onto their website, and you can download some of the stuff. Also looks at the good things that came out of the 2010 FIFA World Cup. It is 5 years exactly to the day today that that 2010 FIFA World Cup began, and we are hopefully going to remember the good things that happened around that tournament. Certainly brought a lot of joy to South Africans. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more sports for you. Stay tuned.